All right. So I want to thank you all again for coming today. I really appreciate it. The folks associated with the program really appreciate your time. And we're really excited to have you join us today to learn more about one of the Department of Energy's technical assistance programs. This one is called the Resources and Assistance for State Energy Offices and Regulators. It's otherwise known as the State TA program for short because nobody really liked my acronym RAISER. Don't quite know why, but well, Jeff liked it. Okay. But I think the folks at DOE did not. The state TA program, what does it do? Well, it provides anyone from a state PUC, such as yourselves or state energy offices for those who are in the audience, in the US or its territories with the opportunity to gain easy access to high impact technical assistance. Today, you're going to learn all about the various opportunities for support that this program provides. Okay, so let me tell you what we're going to cover today. I'm going to have a bunch of opening remarks from both our supporters of the program and our partners for the program. We're then going to turn to gaining some testimonials from folks who actually have gotten technical assistance in the past. And then I'm going to basically get into the down and dirty associated with this program itself, providing an overview of the different technical assistance opportunities that exist, and then focus really on one of them in particular, what we're calling deep dive, because that is a very large TA offering that's happening right now. And we got a bunch of support opportunities that all of you can take advantage of to make that application process easier. And then we'll leave it open for Q&A at the end. So as we're working through today's presentation, if a question comes to you, as anyone is speaking, please feel free to throw it in the chat, throw it in the Q&A. But we're really going to try and table those and collect those until the end. So, okay. So this program is funded by the Department of Energy's Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. Our program sponsor, Paul Spitzen, I think I didn't see in the audience. Don't think he was able to make it today. As you can understand, with a transition from one administration to the next, these folks are extremely busy right now. So let's move on. But I know he wants to also thank all of you for coming today, which was why he wanted to be on the agenda. So next up, let's hand the mic over to Jeff Loiter, the Technical Director of NARUC's Center for Partnerships and Innovation. You know him, you love him. Let him share his thoughts on this program as a key partner of it.
Thanks, Pete. Regardless of the name of this is really a very important initiative. Support that DOE and the labs provide, it's essential to how NARUC supports its members. We're really grateful for the collaboration and for the resources that both of those entities provide to help public utility commissioners and staff be the most effective regulators that they can be. DOE support allows us at NARUC and the Center for Partnerships and Innovation to do a lot in terms of content in the form of reports and resource guides and webinars and in-person trainings. But generally, those are aimed broadly at all of our members rather than in an individual state. So the TA that the labs provide that Pete's talking about really fills a gap. It's an important thing to fill a gap, and it really complements the work that we do in a really very important way. So we hope that you will take advantage of this, the great expertise and the resources that the labs can offer. And I'm sure you'll hear from some of our folks about how well that worked for them coming up next. Thanks for the opportunity, Pete.
Thanks. No, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate all the support you guys have given us over the years. I'm looking forward to coming the future. Okay, so yeah, with that, let's turn to some of your colleagues who we've invited to come talk today, who have had past experiences receiving TA through this or other similar types of DOE-funded technical assistance programs. They're all from state utility commissions from across the country. So first up, we've got Commissioner Gilman from the Colorado Department of Regulatory Agencies, Public Utility Commission.
Hi, well, good afternoon. I think it's afternoon for everyone, so that works. My name is Megan Gilman. I'm a commissioner on the Colorado PUC. We've just had a great experience with this program, so I'd really encourage anyone out there looking for assistance, looking to get some data, solve an interesting technical problem, or just get access to more experts than you might have right now. that this is a really valuable way to do so. In Colorado, I don't know that we're a small state. We're a small, medium-sized state, small but mighty. And we were working on a lot of kind of forward-looking policies and working on a lot of rather nascent issues across some of the things we're looking at. And so the support we've gotten from the lab has been really outstanding to enable us to kind of take a deep dive into some of these really new issues. And I think something that's really stuck out to me is get access to kind of experts and consultants and other people working both inside the labs as well as kind of privately being hired to help us. And those contacts have been really essential. So in a way, the support we've gotten from the labs has kind of gone on and replicated, because now we have access to people that we were introduced to through our work with the technical assistants, who some of whom we're contracting with or working with or reach out to still on some of these issues. So we got technical assistance looking at non-pipeline alternatives on the gas system and how those could be analyzed and some of kind of the technical issues around those. And it's a fairly new issue, so it was difficult for us to draw upon a lot of resources that are already out there or already in the public realm. So it was very helpful for us that the labs were able to help us bring together a lot of experts to look at that. I would say one thing I want to point out, we typically don't have a ton of money available to bring in experts. It's also a very time-consuming process for us to contract with private consultants and things like that. So for us, we found this program very easy to access, but also I think considerably easier than us going out and contracting, notwithstanding that we don't have the budget anyway. But even the time it takes for us, it would have taken for us to contract these sorts of experts would have been far more arduous than what we ended up with the lab. So I want to respect your time and maybe move on, but we had a great experience and would just really recommend folks take advantage of this great opportunity.
Oh, thanks so much for sharing your insights, Commissioner. I really appreciate that. Next up, let's hear from Grace Ralph. She only recently left the Hawaii Public Utility Commission, but she has participated in a number of different TA activities while she was with the HPUC.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. And the Commissioner, I think I'm the only one that is still morning. So good morning, everyone, from here in Hawaii. I am really glad to be here to give some insight into the technical assistance that the PUC in Hawaii received from the labs. And it was actually so good that I decided to join the lab. So I'm mostly kidding. But yeah, as Pete mentioned, I'm here to talk about my work with Berkeley Lab from about the last 2 years, or maybe even a bit more. Before I joined the lab this last June, I was the Chief of Policy and Research at the Hawaii PUC. And at that time, we were working with Hawaiian Electric, the state's largest utility, to conduct and manage a proceeding around sophisticated and sort of forward-looking integrated grid planning. And one of the challenges that we had with that process is that Hawaiian Electric, the utility, does not actually deliver our state's energy efficiency programs. So we were finding that they were not necessarily immediately prioritizing developing advanced methods for modeling efficiency in their grid planning process. And they didn't necessarily have the deep expertise on efficiency either to be able to kind of adopt those best practices for modeling efficiency. So because we knew it was really important at the commission to be able to appropriately value and assess the role of efficiency in the grid going forward, we ended up chatting with some folks about this problem, and I got connected to the lab, which has a slew of experts on efficiency and grid planning as well. And I may be misremembering this, or maybe I just got very lucky, but I honestly don't think I even filled out an application for the technical assistance. It was just very quickly and very simply, I had trusted partners to explore this issue with, and it was really a valuable experience for me and for the PUC. And I think really improved the overall integrated grid planning process for Hawaiian Electric. One thing that was really helpful for me at the PUC as a staffer was that The lab experts took stuff off of my plate. So as a PUC staffer, you will know that your plate is always overflowing. And the lab experts did a lot of work for us. They wrote information and data requests. They attended meetings. They helped us draft language for decisions and orders that we proposed to our commissioners. Really just, I think for me, the most valuable part too was just having partners to bounce ideas off of and have thought partnership with. So I personally learned a lot. And then the technical assistance resulted in Hawaiian Electric modeling efficiency as a supply side resource in their grid plan, which the details of are not super important, but I do remember one of our key stakeholders saying to me, how did you get them to do that? We've been trying to get them to do that for over a decade. So it was really impactful. And I actually also got to present some of that work at a conference. So, just both personally and for the state, I think very valuable collaboration, particularly because it did not require a lot of work for me, both administratively or and took work off of my plate substantively as well. And I honestly believe that the technical assistance helped to build a lot of expertise and capacity in our state throughout Hawaii on this really important topic. So I'll leave it there, but I'd be happy to, answer questions or chat more about this. But thanks again for inviting me.
Oh, thanks, Grace. Really appreciate your comments. And we're very happy to have you at the lab. That's for sure. Okay, next up, Molly Knoll. Another person who has unfortunately left public service in terms of leaving the Maryland Public Service Commission, but she likewise, like Grace, has been a recipient of several different rounds of lab provided technical assistance over her many years at the Maryland PSC. So wanted to have her share her experiences with y'all.
Awesome. Thanks, Pete. I'm adjacent to public service at a
Sure.
trade association doing community solar. Oh, sorry. I have children who are homesick. I need just a minute, love. No. This is the moment I'm talking. Sorry. I prepped them and then it didn't work. So the first part of the technical assistance that I received was actually from Pete. I was at the Maryland Commission and I inherited Pete from my predecessor. We were doing time of use rate design. And it was amazing having a national lab person who could sit in the meetings and then I could debrief with him and say, hey, the utility expert said this. I don't know enough to know whether they're right or wrong or whether they're pulling the wool over my eyes. And Pete was able to really help and bring that expertise in that I really wouldn't have had any other way. The utilities have all the resources in the world and all the money in the world, and they can bring in all the brattles in the world. And we're just completely overmatched at the commission if we don't have the ability to have that expertise. And then the second round that we got when I was at the Maryland Commission, we had a long-standing rule on the books or law on the books that allowed the utilities to come in with forward-looking rate making, and they signaled their intention to do so. And I had an entire staff that could do historical rate making and nobody that could do utility planning, utility forecasting, or any of those skills, because as a restructured state, we'd long since stopped doing distribution system planning or any other of the forward-looking activities. And so it was a very easy application, couple of pages. I needed to get my chairman's sign off and that was about it. And then the really great thing that happened was not only the bringing of the expertise, which the other folks have chatted about, but they connected us with other commissions that were doing similar work. So we actually were in a bit of a cohort with a couple of other states, and we received a number of trainings, which we were able to keep. We have the documents, we can use them for new staff coming in. And it got our staff up to speed incredibly quickly, which we couldn't have done any other way under the rate case workload that a commission has on a day-to-day basis. So when we suddenly had to do something relatively cutting edge, at least for us, and we simply didn't have the capabilities to build that expertise internally, the labs were able to both lend their expertise and give us the tools to start building that internally going forward. So it's just an incredible opportunity. I can't speak highly enough about how much help it was for the Maryland Commission. So.
Thanks so much, Molly. Appreciate it. It was a pleasure working with you. That's for sure. And last but not least, Art O'Donnell from the New Mexico's Public Regulation Commission.
Thank you very much, Peter. Everybody can hear me? Arthur
Yes.
O'Donnell. My entry into this world here, I used to work at the California Public Utilities Commission, then moved to Albuquerque in 2018 and became a clean energy innovator under the DOE program that places resources at state commissions and other entities. And this was a fabulous experience that actually led me to understand all of the different opportunities. And I will have to say that the New Mexico PRC is a frequent buyer of these programs because they don't cost us any money. We have actively had 10 different projects that received assistance from various DOE labs. Sandia, which is a neighbor in Albuquerque, Pacific Northwest National Lab, Argonne, Lawrence Berkeley Lab, and especially the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. And these covered everything from determining how to run our community solar program, what kind of administrative function we would have, to doing hosting capacity analysis that the utilities never wanted to do, right? And moving on from that, the help with our grid modernization and now grid planning docket that's going to be released in the next couple of weeks. And just a whole host of opportunities to have expert opinion and a third eye that could really kind of like vet what the utilities were telling us. So this has been a really tremendous program for us, and we have 2 more that are just beginning, including, and I'll point this one out, is the location optimization of distributed generation expansion, which is a computer modeling program to try and identify sites on the distribution system that will not require large investments in infrastructure in order to accommodate DER placement. That's especially important in our community solar program. We have 45 projects that have now amassed a aggregate bill of $122 million for infrastructure upgrades, right? And we have to figure out how to get past that because the systems in New Mexico were so outdated and really kind of like really need to draw further. So I see all of this stuff fitting together. And, you know, I just encourage people to take advantage of these programs while they last. This is unprecedented. I've been an energy journalist and in this program, in this business for about 40 years. And there has never been a time when the DOE and the labs have been so available to state regulators and to help us move forward with whatever our local transition plans are. So thank you, Peter. I have a long list of folks to thank, but this isn't an Oscar award. So just let everybody know that I really appreciate the assistance that we've gotten.
I wish I could break out my violin and start playing vamping music. So to highlight something Art said, sort of a twofer there with his comments in terms of both the TA that was provided, but also the DOE Fellows Program. That is a great resource to actually get a dedicated human being to be at your PUC for 1, or 2 years, as opposed to having lab folks come in to sort of, come in, surgically deal with an issue, a problem, a challenge, and then, extricate themselves. This is a more dedicated, longer term resource. They're both, I think, great opportunities. Definitely urge you to look into both of them. I'm going to talk about the TA program today, but that fellows program could be really beneficial for lots of PUCs. Okay, so now that we've heard all the great things about this program, let me tell you a little bit more about it. So let me get you through the details of what this is. All right, so the State Technical Assistance Program, it's designed to match the timing and depth of needs of both staff and leadership at PUCs and state energy offices with arguably internationally recognized experts from the Department of Energy's National Lab complex. And the goal is to address issues associated with the rapidly changing technology, regulatory, and policy landscape that you all are in every single day. This new TA program, and I say new because this one in particular has been around for about 6 or 9 months at this point. It's open to anyone working at a state public utility commission or energy office who may need support with or have questions regarding electricity related issues. In addition, there are no limits to the number of individual requests a PUC or SEO can make through the program. In fact, there's no limits on what an individual can make, request they can make of this program. It's a resource we hope that people really do use again and again and again, as Arthur mentioned, Molly and others, definitely coming back to the well as many times as you can and need to, we strongly encourage. So From a topical standpoint, the TA program is intended to support a number of high priority topics that have been identified by the Department of Energy listed here. However, the program does consider requests on any topic. And I want to be really clear about this. This may be the set of topics sort of front and center for a lot of folks at DOE who are funding this program, but we are willing to consider any sort of electricity related topic that you might have issues, challenges, or problems with. So please don't let this list limit your interest in seeking support from the program. Now, there are 3 types of technical assistance that this program offers, and they really vary by the level and depth of need. Our first one is called Help Desk, and this provides TA from a national lab subject matter expert in order to address very short duration inquiries that are pretty straightforward and narrowly focused. Within 2 to 3 business days of formally submitting a request via a very simple online intake form, a program representative will acknowledge receipt of your request and, if necessary, seek to clarify what you're asking for. Within about a week of submission, a subject matter expert from one of the 4 participating national labs will connect with you to begin determining how to best offer their support. Ultimately, the SME can provide up to 4 person-hours of TA. Now, help desk requests can take a lot of different forms, but they all are going to require a relatively modest level of effort to complete. Our SMEs can provide brief literature reviews. They can perform very minor qualitative or quantitative analyses using existing tools or data. They can provide presentations or webinars heavily leveraging material that was already developed, or they can deliver quick review memos or informal consultation on issues or topics of interest. Now, let me give you a few more specific and explicit examples to help illustrate how you all might take advantage of this help desk opportunity. So for our first example, a PUC is planning to open a proceeding in response to FERC Order 2222 that requires them to allow aggregators to operate in the state's retail electricity market in order to ultimately participate in wholesale market opportunities. The lead commissioner wants to vet the list of issues that they've already developed and leverage the experience of other states to see if they've missed anything and to understand how to prioritize which issues that they should tackle first. Now, after submitting the request and getting it approved, a researcher who recently completed a similar TA request connects with the commissioner to clarify what's needed. About a week later, the SME sends over a list of states with recent regulatory proceedings on this issue and schedules a call to discuss the experiences from these other states and how that might help this PUC prioritize what to pursue. In this second example, a staffer from a state energy office is part of a team tasked with developing a community education program on renewable energy development. She's aware that one of the main concerns raised by many communities has to do with adverse impacts on property values. So she submits a TA request to better understand the most recent research on this issue. About a week later, a leading national researcher on property value impacts emails her to clarify the request and schedule a meeting to present his latest research findings. The state energy office staffer coordinates the timing of the virtual meeting so her manager and several colleagues can attend and discuss the implications of this research on their plans for developing the community education program. In this last example, a manager at a PUC is working with a counterpart at the state energy office to pull together a virtual workshop on transportation electrification. One of the panels will be focused on electric vehicle rate design, and they'd like someone from the labs to participate. About a week after submitting their request, a leading researcher on EV rate design emails them to learn more about the panel, what kind of presentation would be needed for it, and what kinds of questions would be posed to panelists to collectively discuss. When the workshop's held about 8 weeks later, the SME delivers a short 10-minute presentation and then banters with the other panelists for the remaining 45 minutes of the session in a lively bout of Q&A. All right, our expert match opportunity provides technical assistance from a national lab subject matter expert in order to address inquiries that go a little bit deeper than a straightforward and narrowly focused help desk request. Again, within 2 to 3 business days of completing this simple online intake form, a program representative will acknowledge receipt of your request and, again, if necessary, seek to clarify what you're asking for. Within about a week of submission, a subject matter expert from one of the 4 participating national labs will connect with you to begin determining how to best offer their support. Ultimately, the SME can provide up to 80 person-hours of TA. Now, expert match requests can and oftentimes do look a lot like help desk requests, but they really are just requiring deeper engagement and more time to complete. So let me give you a few more examples of expert match TA requests so you can understand what this opportunity looks like. For our first example, a manager at the PUC has been tasked to better understand the opportunity presented by smart inverters in improving reliability via distribution system planning efforts and hosting capacity analyses. After submitting a TA request and getting it approved, a nationally recognized expert in interconnection emails the PUC manager to begin the scoping process. They end up holding several virtual meetings over the course of the next month to fully flesh out the request, to identify how the information that will ultimately provided will be subsequently used, and thus determine what content and material would be most beneficial for the SME to provide. About a month after this, the SME sends over a presentation outline for the manager's review and approval. After some back and forth to finalize it, the SME sets off to develop the presentation based on that outline. About 8 weeks or so later, the SME delivers the presentation to the manager and her commissioners, after which the SME facilitates a conversation about how the state could consider altering its current processes to leverage this new standard. In this second example, senior managers from 6 neighboring state energy offices band together to form a cohort and submit 6 concurrent expert match requests to help them navigate the requirements that came out of FERC Order 1920 and what it could mean for transmission planning issues related to their desire to develop offshore wind resources. They ultimately want a regional transmission planning vision document and think this cohort model can provide them with the resources they need to gain consensus. So they submit the TA requests. Within a few weeks, a small team of leading national researchers on transmission planning email them to schedule a meeting to clarify the request and better understand what the regional transmission planning vision document would look like and what it would cover. A month or so after that meeting, the SMEs begin delivering a series of educational webinars describing the requirements contained in FERC Order 1920 and what it might mean for their individual but also collective efforts regarding transmission planning. Soon after the last webinar, the SMEs convene a workshop where they facilitate a conversation with these senior managers to identify potential areas of agreement, but also disagreement in developing a regional transmission planning vision document. In this last example, a manager at the PUC is working with a counterpart at the State Energy Office to develop a policy on who can own and operate EV charging stations. He understands that this is a complex issue with both short-term and long-term implications for competition, for price, and service, but doesn't have the background or, unfortunately, the time to fully assess what they are. So he submits a TA request to leverage an expert who will help him better understand the options and trade-offs associated with different approaches. About a week after submitting his request, a leading researcher on EV business models and utility regulation emails the manager to learn more about the policy that's under development in order to determine how she can best support the joint PUC and SEO effort. 6 weeks later, the SME delivers a memo highlighting the opportunities and challenges associated with allowing IOUs to own and operate charging stations. The group then invites a number of commissioners from the PUC and high-level leaders from the SEO to discuss the contents of the memo and understand what it might mean for this state's policy. Now, our last type of TA, deep dive as it's called, seeks to address really complex inquiries which require considerable time and effort of multiple person months by a team of national lab experts. Applications are being accepted through the end of the year via our online form, but more about that in a little bit. Once those applications are submitted, they'll be carefully reviewed by DOE and the lab staff, with awards being announced by late March of 2025. Now, you'll observe type, we've got some similar types of deep dive activities listed here as were shown under expert match. But the difference being the depth and breadth of effort to fulfill the request, as well as the ability to include multiple activities into your request. There are opportunities to perform much more complex technical analyses that can leverage proprietary lab tools, models, and data sets. In addition, deep dive requests can support lengthy proceedings or fact-finding missions through a variety of both formal and informal deliverables and engagement mechanisms. Again, to help illustrate the opportunities available to you all through this type of TA, let me run through a series of examples. For our first example, a manager at the PUC has been tasked by one of her commissioners to better understand how the impacts from electric vehicles could be considered in distribution system planning efforts, including how vehicle-to-grid opportunities could act as a non-wires alternative. Given the limited amount of time that she can commit to researching this effort, she submits an application for deep dive technical assistance. In late March, she's notified that her request has been granted and is connected with a team of National Lab subject matter experts to develop a statement of work that will provide her with the content she needs to meet her commissioner's request. Ultimately, the National Lab team and the PUC manager agree that the lab team will first prepare a detailed report on the potential effects of different EV adoption rates and charging patterns on distribution system planning outcomes. The team will next develop and deliver 2 training sessions to commissioners and staff regarding how to value electric vehicle-to-grid opportunities as non-wires alternatives in distribution system planning, highlighting any relevant experiences from states who are already doing it, but also those that are considering it. And finally, the lab team will support the PUC through a series of facilitated discussions based on a review of a utility's filing of their distribution system plan, which will be the first to explicitly include the effects of EV adoption in the analysis. In this second example, a division director from a state energy office has been increasingly frustrated by the lack of equity considerations in the state's centralized procurement process to meet its RPS requirements. They are interested in developing a framework that incorporates equity implications into an updated procurement process for utility-scale renewable energy resources. So they submit a deep dive technical assistance request in the hopes of getting help with the issue. Early in the spring, they're notified of their selection and begin developing a statement of work with the team of lab SMEs dedicated to this TA project. They collectively agree that what's needed first and foremost is a summary of equity definitions and adjacent terms so that everyone's singing from the same choir book. Next, the team will summarize the existing procurement framework used in the state and identify any concerns with it after speaking with a number of stakeholders. And lastly, the team will plan to develop a series of different pathways to address those concerns within the state energy office's procurement processes. To ensure this material is approachable and usable by those it's intended to help, the lab team drafts a technical report that can be published and subsequently cited, as well as a series of presentations for internal consumption. In this last example, several managers of the State Utility Commission and Energy Office are interested in jointly building the capacity of their staff in relation to forecasting in the electricity sector. Does this one sound familiar? They submit a request for lab staff to develop a series of in-person workshops. Upon learning that they'll receive this support, a team of SMEs from the lab connect with them to discuss the intended goals of the training and the target audience. The outcome is an agreement that the workshop should focus on the forecasting of load associated with data centers, electric vehicles, and building electrification, 3 areas of interest for both the Commission and Energy Office. They determine that the first in the series of workshops will provide an overview of the purpose and common methods used in forecasting, along with best practices specific to these 3 areas of interest. Following that, 3 workshops will be held that each dive deeper into a specific area, focusing on benchmarking, risk, and uncertainty in that specific area's forecasts. Approximately 5 months later, the labs deliver the first of these 4 workshops, with each subsequent workshop scheduled roughly 6 weeks apart. I want to reiterate, anyone from a state PUC or energy office wishing to gather more information about this program or submit a TA request, you should open up an internet browser and type in the URL statetaprogram.lbl.gov. This will provide you with direct access to all of the resources this TA program has to offer. So let's now focus on the deep dive TA application process and the various opportunities that we've created to support those of you developing your own project ideas and ultimately submitting an application. First, in order to be considered for a deep dive technical assistance award, a PUC or an SEO must formally submit their TA request via our online application form. In a minute, we'll jump to the website so I can actually show you where the link is to that application form. But for now, let's focus on the form itself. We assume that many of you will need time to think through and finalize your TA request. Knowing what questions are contained in the application form can make that process more efficient. So to assist you in this offline effort, we created an editable PDF version of the application form that's likewise available on the webpage. We urge you to download the editable PDF version of the application form before you begin developing your TA request. Unfortunately, we don't have a way to upload a completed PDF version of the application form and automatically port over all of your answers into our online tracking system. We have some of the most complex computing systems out there and can split the atom more ways than Sunday, but this is a bridge too far. So we'll need you to, unfortunately, manually transfer your answers to each question from the editable PDF version of the application form into the online application form. But don't worry, it should be quick and easy as there are only about 10 questions that you have to answer. Once you've done this, you'll need to click the submit button in order to formally have your completed online application form considered for support by this program. I apologize for the inconvenience that this may cause, but we figured the benefits of having this editable offline version of the application form were worth the extra effort. One last thing to note is each PUC or SEO is able to submit as many deep dive requests as you'd like. And that's true for the other two forms of TA as well. In fact, if you have near-term needs, feel free to complete a help desk or expert match TA request to bridge the divide between when your deep dive TA request is considered and potentially awarded. So in the event you want to submit multiple deep dive TA requests that encompass different topics, we simply ask that you complete a separate application for each one. We will review each independently and make decisions on each independently. So to help you quickly navigate through the program's webpage, let's start with the landing page, or our website, excuse me. And so what you see on the screen is a snapshot of the upper half of the landing page when you go to the URL statetaprogram.lbl.gov. Now highlighted in red is a hyperlink that brings you directly to the deep dive online application form. But I'd really recommend most of you go instead to the deep dive subpage shown on the right-hand side menu and highlighted in red. This has a wealth of additional information and resources to help you develop your application material in preparation for its submission. To that end, let us quickly navigate through the deep dive program's webpage to show you where each of the key support resources can be found. What you see on the screen is a snapshot of the upper half of the deep dive landing page. Highlighted in red is an accordion box that contains a series of frequently asked questions, including information about key resources to support the development of your deep dive application. The FAQ I want to focus on is the one that asks, what is the process for receiving deep dive technical assistance? Now let me walk you through the information that's contained in the answers to it. To initially support state commissions and energy offices who wish to request deep dive TA, we are offering a series of what we call virtual office hours. where potential applicants can get answers to specific questions regarding their unique TA requests from the National Lab team managing this technical assistance program. Although we can't share details regarding the review and selection process, we can discuss with you the viability of different ideas you might have for TA, as well as ways to better frame your request such that it increases the chances that it'll be selected. In order to access the office hours, you'll need to sign up for a 30-minute slot in one of the 4 remaining dates in the months of November and December. To reserve your slot, please go to the URL listed and provide your name and email address in any remaining available 30-minute window. However, don't worry about writing down the URL, as there's a link in the program's webpage that I'll show you now. Here's the link that allows you to reserve your 30-minute slot with the lab team. Remember, these are offered on a first-come, first-served basis. The editable offline version of the application form that I talked about earlier can be found here, also in the answer to this FAQ. But remember, your request for TA won't be considered unless you formally submit it via our online application form. There are numerous places throughout the website for you to access this form, as you can see here. The main landing page, the deep dive landing page, and even in this FAQ. So that's it for my formal comments today. So I want to open the floor up for questions. So with that, let me go look at the Q&A and see if we've got any questions. So none have been submitted so far. Folks, feel free. I see a hand raised. See if I can figure out how to. Of course, I don't know how to do that. If you could throw your throw your question into the chat, whoever put their hand up, or the Q&A, whatever's easiest, I will be more than happy to answer it. So I'm going to wait a couple minutes for folks to put their questions in. So as I mentioned, while folks are potentially putting questions in, this is a program that's available to anybody at a state energy office as well as a state PUC. For those of you from state energy offices, I know this webinar was really focused on PUCs, but there is a dedicated technical assistance program for state energy offices. It provides up to 40 hours of technical assistance specifically. I believe it accumulates applications over the course of the month, and then it makes decisions and notifies folks. So it's a little different than this program, where this one provides a little more variety in terms of the level of depth of support, but also in terms of the fact that those 4-hour and 80-hour opportunities are really provided on an ongoing basis and on an ad hoc basis. I know there's been some questions along the way about, what differentiates those two programs, and I'd say that's probably the best way to differentiate them. Okay, I don't see any questions from folks, which either means you're all off doing something else, or it means I actually was able to answer all your questions through the course of the presentation. And I'm going to assume it's the latter, even though it's Friday afternoon. So going once, going twice. Okay. I want to give you all the rest of your afternoon back, or at least 15 minutes of it. I really appreciate your time today. Again, this webinar will be posted. Recording of it will be posted, as well as the actual presentation. And so I saw Jeff, you come off camera. You want to say any final words?
Just wanted to thank you for this, Pete. And we'll make sure that we get the link circulated amongst, with some of our typical outreach to our members. But please also share with your colleagues in your organizations.
Yep. Thank you, Jeff. That'd be great. And last but not least, In addition to reaching out to Jeff, if you have questions about the program, you should certainly feel free to contact me, Peter Kappers, here at Berkeley Lab, as well as any of the folks listed on this last slide from the 4 participating labs here. Juliet Homer is in the audience today. I think I saw Jason Ball as well. But all of us are here to answer your questions, to provide support, etc. So please, please do feel free to reach out to us directly or to the TA program through that website. So with that, thank you again for your time today, and I wish you all a great weekend. Cheers.
Thanks so much, Pete.
All right.